was thinking about some other bits and questions. I know people probably ask you so much, but it's interesting to me when I think of like just how things have changed. Rock and roll still exists and it's still vital, but how things become commonplace. In some ways, it's exciting. In some ways, it over dilutes it. But like for instance, like the New York City shirt that was just your shirt you gave to John Lennon. Now they're selling it every
It's
tourist
become
place on
world
Bleecker
famous.
Street.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise.
And New York has changed so much, in that way where, it used to be edgy and, you were talking about CBGBs before it being like Hillies on the Bowery, and there's this movie, a Hollywood movie coming out about CBGBs, and it's a festival and a brand, and, the Ramones is a brand, and seeing all that stuff evolve and still living in New York, you haven't gone like, I know you get out of the city and stuff enough, but you still keep this place, you still are part of every day in this town. How do you feel about like the changes it's been from?
Well, I feel really lucky to be still alive and see the changes and be part of the changes. But as things always changed. The fact that CBGB's opened was a change. Because before that there was no place like that. There was Max's, there was a couple other places that people played, but then that became a new place. So when it closed, that was another change. But every day things change. And I'm just really glad to see the changes. There's a very vibrant art scene going on out in Brooklyn, organic actually. Very good food out there. That's one thing that's really changed, that's improved a lot, is the food has gotten a lot better in the last 30 years.
Yeah, I remember when we got on my first tour, I was on a tour bus, and we got cases of water, and they would give it to the venue, and so you could get all fucked up, but then you drink water the next day, because I'm always, as much as I like to drink, I always thinking about like I want to be healthy or whatever, the battle, the yin and the yang, and as I said, I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, we got bottled water and all this stuff. What did you do, Bob, in the 70s on a tour bus? You woke up, you didn't have water, you didn't have this. He goes, we just drank more, or we drank soda. I was like, I just couldn't imagine.
They hadn't invented those kind of water bottles yet. They weren't ubiquitous like they are today. There were beer cans were everywhere. Like if you're thirsty, you had a beer.
Right.
What do you mean water? And I was actually just thinking about it the other day, like how people must have gotten thirsty back then. So I was wondering, like, what did we do if we didn't have a beer? And Elizabeth mentioned, well, there were water fountains around. Yeah. Like there was public water, and so that's a change. But everything changes every day, and I'm just happy to be part of it. It's kind of fascinating to me to see new things. I wouldn't want to go back to Max's, certainly not with those same people. Elizabeth had a great line, because we were at a Max's kind of reunion. We were at an art gallery, and it was very bright, and they had some of the art from some of the earliest part of Max's. Like there was an art years, and then there was a rock and roll years, and this was a reunion of the art year, the artists and so on, from Max's, and it was in this bright gallery. And somebody asked Elizabeth, like, what do you think of this place, this reunion? And she said, I think they ought to turn the lights down 20 or 30 years. And because, I can't imagine going with those same people, drinking like that. They're all in their 70s now,
Right.
But I can imagine that people who are in their 20s, like we were back then, go to a club in Brooklyn and have a lot of fun, and they have a lot of drinks, and they're creating art, and you won't know which club is the club for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
At the time, people weren't going to Max's because it was the hippest place. It was the only place.
Right.
Like CBGB's was like the only place. For a while that had that
be
kind
the T-shirt,
of
the movie, and the book, and the whole thing.
I had no idea that it was going to be world famous. In fact, there was a period where you couldn't really mention, if you were in the music business, there's a famous quote from Clive Davis told Lisa Robinson, like, don't mention those downtown bands above 14th Street, like nobody wants to know about that. There was a big phrase back then about all those kind of bands that played there, and it was called no commercial potential.
Right.
Because nobody was expecting to make any money playing that kind of music,
Right.
Which is now anthems around the world.
I was just reading this book, The Making of Kiss, this oral history
really?
just came out. It's pretty great. I think you're in there. You definitely are. And it's just different people, like Please Kill Me, just talking about, Kiss. And it's 72 to 75, so it's really fun. And then they came and played at the Varvatos store, and they took our cell phones and cameras away. And that was impressive, too. They're like, all right, you're just here to really watch the music.
Right.
But, just the people, the visionaries of people, like being, I guess you're around, like Bill Coyne and Neil Bogart starting Casablanca Records, or, these people that believed in this stuff and would stick it out 2, 3, 4 records, or, over time. And Seymour Stein signed all those bands down there. We were just talking about they're going to give him an award soon, but,
Well, he did have a vision because, truthfully, at the time, nobody thought those bands would make any money at all.
Yeah.
It was called, and before it was called punk, it was called New Wave. But it was kind of following the idea of the Dolls, who didn't make any money because they were too far ahead of their time. People were outraged, shocked to see, boys trying to be pretty like that.
Right.
And, they thought they were gay or something, but the Dolls were actually dressing up like dolls because girls like to play with dolls. And they wanted girls to play with them. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole theory behind, trying to be beautiful and combing their hair better and putting on a little makeup to look good. Wearing a brighter clothes or something, because, people used to say they wear girls' clothes. Well, they didn't wear them in the sense of a transvestite. It was more in the sense, one of my favorite lines from Please Kill Me is when Iggy Pop gets busted one night for taking too many Quaaludes or something, and his friend comes to bail him out in the morning, and he comes walking out of jail, and his friend sees him, and he's wearing a blue dress. And his friend says, Iggy, like, what are you doing in a girl's dress? And he goes, excuse me, this is a man's dress.
This is a man's world.
And, and so they kind of made it a bit more freedom that you could wear whatever you wanted and look whatever way you wanted. It was kind of an extension of the hippie idea of be yourself, do your thing. Well, they wanted to be beautiful, so they tried. And in fact, Kiss became monsters because they went to a Dolls show and they thought the Dolls were the best looking band there was. And they couldn't compete with the Dolls being so beautiful. But they could become monsters because nobody else was doing that. They could go the opposite way.
Right.
And so they became the monsters of rock.
That's pretty wild. And Aerosmith became the Dolls watered down.
And the pop version of the Dolls, and actually made some money as opposed to the Dolls.
But from, knowing your history and stuff, you've seen so many things early on, like right before they were going to blow up, or right with the beginning germ, like being at the first Sex Pistols rehearsal, or seeing the Dolls.
I get out a lot,
Yeah, seeing the Clash, they for,
I wasn't there at their first rehearsal. I was there when they were recording their first album.
You weren't at Denmark Street at rehearsals down there?
I went to the rehearsals, but it wasn't their first rehearsal.
Right, but when you've seen a band like that before it really got out, was there one moment or one particular artist you're like, wow, this is going to do something, or you just like...
Not usually. I mean, actually, I remember Danny from DJing because I used to go to the off gigs, like he played a Polish hall out in Brooklyn, and it was me and Elizabeth were the only people there.
And now it's Warsaw. It's like a big club.
And Danny's like, you always come to the bad gigs.
Newark, New Jersey.
I said, well, I'm a fan.
On a Tuesday
and
night.
then one day he was saying to me, like, we're really kind of nervous that you're a fan because a lot of the bands you like break up. And I was like, sorry, The bands don't automatically become great because I take their picture. I take pictures of thousands of bands, and I'm just lucky that a few of them became big. And very often, bands I like don't really make it big. I lucked out with the Clash and with the Blondie and people like that.
Right. John Lennon was already in the Beatles, but...
Yeah, but he was out of work when I met him. Actually, he did the Sometime in New York album and it bombed. Right. It was kind of interesting. Yoko once told me when she goes through Central Park, she likes to give the musicians, she sees there's some money, because they remind her of her ex-husbands because they were all out of work guitar players. It made me think, yeah, John was out of work after the Beatles for a while,
It's true. Well... This has been fun, man. This has been great. I don't know.
Yeah.
I even learned some things I haven't heard before, and it's nice to hang out.
Well, we do this all the time. We just don't get taped usually.
Yeah. We usually get food.
Yeah, let's have dinner instead next time.
But no, I like.
We can bring the cameras. We just want to have dinner too.
Your energy, and like you said something a couple weeks ago when I was talking about New York and moving. I said, would you ever think of moving somewhere else? And you're like, well, the difference is, what did you say? You said, well, people live in LA. They ask you, how are you doing?
Yeah, in LA, when you meet somebody, they say, how are you? How are you doing? And in New York, when you meet somebody, they say, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you up to? It's a very action city. It's people, things are going on here.
We got to get going. We got to do something. What's going on?
Let's go do something. All right.
You better call Adam, get the website set up. And right. You need some help with your computer? What do you got?
Yeah, my computer.
I think Prince is playing with Springsteen over at the Neil Young winery benefit for the whales.
Oh, that was it. We saw Prince too, thanks to you. Like just a couple of weeks ago at the winery.
Well, thanks to you too. If I called up and said it was somebody else, if I said it was, Joe the Bum, they would have said, oh, yeah.
Well, I'm lucky the guy likes me and lets me in.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing. You get to go in free shows, it's nice to get a free, nosh backstage or whatever.
Yeah, nowadays it's pretty good. A lot of people know me. Back in the old days, it wasn't so easy.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Okay.